What's up?
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. Oh my gosh. This is like my first time being back.
Oh my gosh.
Because I wasn't on last week's episode.
Missed you.
Tears. But I'm very excited to listen to it. I'm going to listen to it tonight while I finish editing the rest of it. Right. Anyway, welcome back, everybody, to the i.B.Artin podcast. We are so excited that you guys are with us, joining us for our part 2 of our second season. Mm-hmm. Today, we have a very, 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 very special guest on, even though we say that about like everyone. Like this one is like very, very, very extra special. My best friend and sorority sister and international touring artist, Tychelle Bearden, is joining us today from Houston, Texas. Very excited to have her on. We're going to have her introduce herself, and then we're going to get this episode started.
Heck yeah.
Mars, is there anything you want to leave us with before we hand it to Tychelle?
Yeah, if you haven't already checked out the last episode with Mia and Caleb, please make sure to go ahead and do that. And if you haven't listened to that one, watch the one with Mia before that, and then continue.
Right.
Because we got a 2-parter.
Right.
So
go back.
Don't be one of them people that listens to the part 2 before the part 1.
And share it with people too. Don't forget about that.
And do.
All right. Let us pass it on to Tychelle. Shelly girl, if you could just briefly introduce yourself. For this episode, we're going to just kind of walk through your life and, so you can share with the audience your experiences throughout your career. But right now, if you could just give us a basic rundown, who you are, what art do you practice, a little bit of your educational background, and then, we'll get deeper into it.
Of course. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Tychelle Bearden. I am first and foremost a kingdom citizen of the Most High. I grew up in the League City, Houston-ish area, went to TCU, Texas Christian University. I graduated with a BFA in acting and a general business minor. And I'm currently here in Texas. We are working and really trying to see what's next in my life.
Real with the see what's next.
Right.
Life, like heavy on the job application too. So could you tell us a little bit about your art? What art do you delve into, and how did you get started?
Yeah, so the art that I do is limitless. I would say I do a lot of acting, dancing, singing. I'm a natural hairstylist. I choreograph, I teach. I mean, the list can go on. I also used to do a lot of drawing art when I was younger, but I got started actually when Disney princesses and Barbie movies were like heavy in my childhood. I mean, I watched it over and over again. Same with Annie, like the OG movie Annie and The Incredibles. And for me, I was the girl that was always reenacting, oh, my slipper fell off these imaginary stairs in my 1-story house. Or I would also like create my own dresses out of blankets, like imagination, all of that type of stuff was second nature to me. And so in my elementary school, when they said they were doing Annie the musical, it didn't matter. I didn't really know what theater was, but I knew those scenes in Annie. And so ever since that day, right. Like ever since then, I was hooked, and theater just became second nature. Dance, I did a lot of dance in my dance ministry, and we went to see a show at Miller Outdoor Theater. And that really changed my life. I can't even remember the style, but it was just beautiful. It was slow. It was molding. 2 dancers just communicating through movement. And so I've been hooked ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talk a lot in what episode? Church Taught Me How to Art. It was like our second episode
or third, girl,
of our very first season.
A year ago.
Yeah, a year ago, literally. And Mars and I both talked about our experiences about, getting introduced to art through the church, and me with dance, praise dance, and Mars with music as well. If you want to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, literally through the violin. Like the first time I ever watched someone play the violin in person was in church, and it was a family friend, and they ended up being like my first private instructor. So yeah, I think like we've definitely talked about that pretty in depth, of that really being a hub for embracing the arts, especially for, like young, at least in our case, like young Black youth.
Yeah, and I was like, a lot of guest artists that we've had on too have like, that's been the first thing that they've mentioned is like, I got introduced to art through church, and it seems like it's just this big cultural experience that a lot of Black people, go through. Potentially it's because limited resources and access to the arts,
Heavy on that, yes.
But I think it's nice that we all have this like kind of shared experience, and how that kind of set us up, to chase this career that we're chasing right now. And so you mentioned you went to TCU for acting, and there's like some choreographing in there. And of course, I know you from personal experience. Tychelle and I did go to TCU together.
Right.
That's where we met. Yeah, could you talk to us a little bit about studying acting within an educational, institution? Because we've had actors. Oh yeah, because Tamia studied within. She studied at AMDA, so experience at TCU, and how did business play into that? How were you able to intersect all these forms of art that you participate in into that one experience, and how did that show up?
Yeah, of course. What led me to TCU? It was actually between TCU and Chapman University in California for me. And but one thing about TCU, they made me feel welcome and valued as a performer, and they showed that they wanted me more. And ever since I chose TCU, like I just knew it was the right place for me. Honestly, thanks to my mom, because she's the one that told me, hey, both my parents, my mom and my dad, both taught me, like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, you love the arts, but you also love math. That's like your favorite subject. So think about some things you can do on that end. And knowing that creating side businesses on the side in high school became second nature as well to me, I was like, okay, I need to find a school that's good in theater as well as business. And so during the year of me trying to figure out what school I'm going to go to, TCU ranked pretty high. And pros, I would say some great things about the BFA acting program at TCU was every class that I went to in the department, I felt empowered to come back the next day or the next class time, because I knew I was going to learn something valuable for my theatrical career. And the cool thing about the program is that it's not just acting classes. Like, I knew I was a dancer, so I was like, okay, maybe musical theater isn't what I want to go for. I want to go for like honing in on my acting craft. But I still got to take dance lessons every semester. I still got to take voice lessons and get juries and things like that. And so it was very malleable. Even the showcase that I got to do at the end of my 4 years going to New York, they prepared you with websites, your headshot, your resume. Like, they really prepped us in that end, the professors at TCU. And it just felt great knowing that I'm getting my education from high level people in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to think about past conversations we've had with, or maybe even like Tamia's conversations, and how normally when, or I don't want to say normally, but just from the conversations that we've had, like, people's first experience when speaking about school was like, it's like a negative one, or it's like trying to survive as a Black artist in this department. And so I just wanted to highlight what you said, because it's, I mean, obviously I know you personally, so I know that you really have a positive approach to being in art and learning new things, like probably one of the things that attracted me to you the most, like to be my bestie. But it's also, I think it's also very refreshing because I feel like as Black artists, in some way, shape, or form, we're always like struggling and we're always highlighting the struggle. And sometimes it's like, can we not talk about that?
Right. Can we give it a rest for a second?
Yeah. Can we give it a rest? Can we just enjoy that we get to show up, that we get to practice this art and learn new things? And so, very beautiful.
Yeah, no, definitely refreshing to hear like such a positive experience. Also like surprising, but still refreshing because it is such a, I'm not going to say anomaly, but it feels like one to hear about a positive experience as a Black artist studying their art like academically. Even like Kira and I have talked about our experiences, and you know, while we even maybe enjoyed certain aspects of it, there were definitely some negatives along our journeys that we both shared. So it is really refreshing to hear that.
Yeah, and I know like for me, I like there came a point where it was hard for me to even focus on my art. And we've had, conversations together, but like being in environments where you're constantly worried about like feeling othered or like doing all of these other things just to survive, or maybe you're balancing a whole bunch of extracurriculars in addition to the art that you're studying, it can be very overwhelming. And then at this point it's just like, let me just graduate, like let me just get my degree, like let me forget about right now just like forget about all the other resources that are around me that I can't take advantage of because I go to this institution, but like get me out of this school, give me a job.
I will say, I feel like one thing that helped me, because this is kind of like a pro and a con, because there were, some hardships being like one of the only Black people in the department and not necessarily feeling like we had a support system. TCU really makes the opportunity for you to create an organization possible. And so for me, I'm one of the founding members of TCU Theater Black Excellence on campus. And really that provided a space for Black artists to get together, to be that support system, to create a safe space for us to love on one another, support one another, but also create art for people to learn and learn about our Black history, and also just become more connected. And we really got to have diverse casts when we did different student productions. And so I would say that really helped me grow into myself, become more confident, because when we didn't have a support system, rather than sitting in it and making it more competitive, we chose to do something about it. And that brought people to TCU because they saw a community that they could be a part of.
Yeah, I think it's important for us as artists to find ways in which we can take initiative and create, not only just like create these spaces, these safe spaces for the people that are currently there, but using that as a way to reach prospect students who will come as well, and let them know like, okay, yeah, you're interested in this school just like we all were, but you don't have to have that typical Black experience, of feeling isolated, alienated, whatever it may be, because the ones that are here currently or the ones that were here before took the time to create this space so you wouldn't have to go through, those situations, those feelings alone. But I also think it's really beautiful because it shows how multidisciplinary we are as artists. Like obviously we're actually artists, but like y'all created like a mini organization in a sense, like a mini business, which can be the structure to, an actual nonprofit or profit, down the line, which is really great. Like I think that's something that should be encouraged within curriculum or within undergraduate experiences. Like it's not just about you being here taking advantage of what already exists, but you really have the opportunity to create as well and lean into the multiple ways of what it means to be a creator in this industry. So I think that's really great to hear, and thank you for sharing that with us. Mars, do you want to?
No, I mean, I think you kind of summed it up with the fact that like it is great to hear that you were able to kind of capitalize on your experience and increase what that might be for future Black artists coming to your school and for the present artists that were already there when you were there as well. I think it's really hard to make spaces like that, especially when there's not a lot of you to make that space. So taking what is there, who is there, and to be able to foster that and make it thrive and then continue on, like that is an achievement that is a success along like on its own.
Yeah. And like making it fun.
Yeah.
Like
not making it like a Debbie Downer.
Yeah, like I did TCU Black Theater, Black Excellence too, and Tychelle and I would like choreograph together sometimes for the blackout performances, and it was so fun. I wasn't there because I was like, okay. I was there because I was like, oh, like Black people, like Black.
Right.
But also I just saw it as like, me as a dancer, I get to flex my acting muscles. Like I get to like lean in to this community that actually recognizes their other abilities as an artist. And yes, we're Black and we're creating this very Black show, but it's also just fun. It's like you said, it's not like a Debbie Downer thing. It's not about us like coming together and having weekly meetings talking about our deep experiences, because we tried to do something like that in the dance department. And it was nice, like the Black students and faculty, we would all together at times, but it always felt like, okay, I'm going to this thing to talk about why I'm Black versus like talking about like just being in community and just creating and just having fun. And so I think leaning into the funness of being Black can be a great thing too. Yeah. I haven't done this podcast in a while. I feel like I don't even know how to like but so I wanted to ask you about your transition from school to post-grad. But actually, before I do that, I just thought about thinking about the progression of studying your art through TCU, from freshman year to senior year, and then to now. Like obviously we learn a lot, we shape and grow and morph and mold as artists, but like what did that look like for you? Were there ever times where you were like, okay, I need to step away from this for a second? Were there extracurriculars or were there other things that you found were piquing your interest a little bit more that maybe broadened your perspective of like what your career could look like as an artist or just like as a regular human?
For me, I would say from freshman year, there's definitely a super positive outlook of, I just want to be not even famous. I just want to be successful in film and television, which is still what I see. But, that fantasy side or that dream of it's just picture perfect, reality starts to kick in. And it's like, do you realize you're in a pool of plenty of other talented performers? And I mean, that aspect didn't really play too much a part, but it started to help me see what else can I do? I'm not like everyone else. Okay, so what else can I do? And administration has really always played a part in my growth from freshman to senior year. I mean, I went to theater thinking I would do film and television. But then I was like, okay, maybe cruise ships. Okay, maybe tours, maybe musicals. I rather than limiting myself to film and television, I was like, you are more than just an actor. You are more than just a dancer. What can you pair it with? And so, I mean, choreography helped a lot with that. Co-choreographing Sweet Charity, and so many other student productions in college. Administratively, I see myself helping ASM wise, assistant stage managing, and how can I orchestrate things backstage. And so, yeah, I would say my advancement, it's like still go for your dream, but don't shut off other parts of yourself that can help create more of a well-rounded individual that you can become.
Yeah, I feel like I know that's why I'm studying arts administration right now. I can't speak for arts, but I think we've talked about that before how sometimes it can, the art world can just be painted as like very pretty, and it's like, just follow your dream, just chase your dream, and you'll make it.
Yeah,
and it's like, girl, it's like, that could be true.
There's more.
There's more. There are multiple truths that all exist at the same time.
right.
And I think also sometimes within that conversation of, oh, just chase your dream, just keep going, la 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 la. A lot of these people that are doing that have a full-time job first. Like the art, they're sowing those seeds of consistency, but unless you are privileged enough to just like sit at home and like have someone pay your rent, have someone provide groceries for you.
Right.
You don't need you just have the resources to genuinely focus on your art every single day, or you're with an institution, company, organization that can pay you, a livable wage, then it's like, it's not realistic in the way that it's painted out to be. And I don't want people to see leaning into other aspects of ourselves, or opening that definition of what it means to exist as an artist. I don't want people to see it as like, oh, your art's not going to happen, because it's not about that. It's not about telling people that their dreams can't come true, because they very much can, but it's more so about expanding the definition of or expanding the perspective of what it looks like to actually exist in the art world and be a successful artist. All these musicians out there, all of those, famous dancers or famous film actresses, like, they're still running in a business kind of way. They still have these like very entrepreneurial skills that they have learned along the way that work in tandem with, with the art that they're creating.
I mean, literally, we see a lot of the famous musicians, artists, whoever, like, all of them have a side hustle or multiple side hustles. Like, I don't think there's a single one who is just a musician, just an actor, just a dancer. Like, they have multiple things going on just because you kind of have to for sustainability. Like, it feels it's a constant like game of, but wait, there's more. Like,
you're right.
Because there has to be more.
Yeah. And I feel like every artist kind of naturally gets this realization of like, oh, I need to learn business. you know, like it just happens because it's like, oh, how am I gonna survive? But and going back to your interest in business, and you kind of naturally already had this like, these two seeds, like, this is art and this is business, and you didn't necessarily know how to connect them at first, but it sounds like there was this very natural and authentic morphing that happened as you progressed through your years at TCU, and it just kind of became clear to you how you could morph these two interests in there. I don't know if is math in that too? Is math?
Oh yeah, I mean, math is all over business, but definitely my favorite as far as subject wise.
Yeah. I love math too. I always thought it was fun.
I used to love math.
That's it.
Look, PEMDAS has my heart. So does sine, cosine, and like
sine cosine is great.
You lost me after crazy. Lost me after PEMDAS. Once we got into sine, no.
I love looking at algebra. I liked pre-calc.
Yeah.
Pre-calc was kind of fun.
AP Calc was the problem. She's the problem child.
I didn't take that one.
I was forced to.
I would say economics. I really loved my microeconomics class. That supply and demand stuff, I was like, yes, more of that.
It also does put into perspective, though, like the arts world too, and like kind of as to why there's why people, or at least justify, like trying not to pay artists. It's like there's too many. There's anybody can genuinely be an artist, and so like there's too many, and the demand for it. Like, girl, help me out with this. But it's like you know, there's
just like what you're saying, the pool is just so large, and so. You know, in college they definitely taught us like you are enough, and that's great. But if you're not really seeing how you can differentiate yourself from somebody else, then you know how can a casting director really pick you? What makes you authentic, and why would they pick you over someone else? Not that the other person is not talented or anything like that, but the pool is large, and so you really have to make yourself stand out, not by putting on somebody else's or comparing how you can be like someone else. Be yourself. And what does that look like? How can you make that the most marketable person?
And I think how you internalize it is very important too, because I think I can, you know, there's a healthy level of comparison that can happen, you know, like if I go in an audition room and I see this person is doing 3 pirouettes and I'm only doing 1, I'm like, crap, you know, like instead of thinking about it as like, oh, they're better than me, like,
right,
they didn't choose me because of this. How you internalize it can be differently, and say, oh, I want to work up to that, you know, like I'm going to go home and I'm going to work, and you know, so that way when I go into the audition room next time, I'm the person whipping out 3 pirouettes or like a crazy twirl and violin, you know, like your perspective really plays into how you survive as an artist too. And honestly, I feel like right now there's a lot of like sensitivity in the I mean, I'm just gonna say in the art world, at least I can only speak for dance right now, or I'm only gonna speak for dance right now. That's all I know. But it's like people don't attack dance in that way anymore. It's like, oh, Mars gave me a correction, they hate me, and I'm like, y'all make me not want to show up to class anymore because you're in an environment with people that have this like negative mindset, and it really brings you down. And I think that's another reason why I highlighted your approach to how you talked about TCU in the beginning, because it really is refreshing. And like, you know, I don't know what it was like coming from NYU, you know, the conversation, the language that would happen when people are talking about feedback from professors, but it's like sometimes feedback can just be feedback and it actually be good. And you know, you don't show up to class every day and the first thing somebody says to you at 9 a.m. ballet is like, God, hopefully they don't pick on me today. It's like, you know?
Yeah. I won't, for the sake of keeping positivity in the forefront, I definitely will not speak about my experience in the NYU Music Ed department, because I will say it was not bad. It was not a bad program, and it did, like, the faculty that we did have, our adjunct faculty, they were all lovely people. They were very supportive. There's actually a couple of them work as adjuncts here at TC as well. They're very distinct pipeline between the music ed programs. But when it came to interacting with the students, there wasn't any like picking on that like other programs had experienced, because music ed is really the love child of education departments and music performance. So there's a lot of pressures from both ends, both faculties along with our own faculty. So a lot of our issues really stemmed from like clarity and some of the like relevance that some of our professors had, like their knowledge was outdated. So that's where like more of our struggles came from, which is kind of like dealing with actually being prepared for the jobs that we wanted to do. So I can't necessarily relate to that. It had its own struggles and problems in terms of support, but it was never really I'm scared of being singled out by the people in my program. It was more so like, oh, I'm scared of being cold-called by this one professor for like oral dictation.
Right.
And that's like where we experienced that, but everybody kind of knew like, okay, it's not all of the faculty. It's maybe this specific professor or these specific professors. Like, for the most part, most of the adjuncts that we wanted to see wanted students to succeed. They wanted them to, you know, not fail in music theory and not fail in oral dictation because they were all mandatory. So I do appreciate that like there was a collective understanding of like, listen, I'm going to come up with ways that can help you understand what's going on.
Right.
And it was helpful. It was refreshing. There were several professors. There was always the same few professors like each semester that they were like, okay, this is who you want for music theory 3. This is who you want for oral theory or for whoever. But there was also the same list of like, this is who you don't want.
Yeah. And that brings up like another conversation where it's like, you know, there's experience that we have as students where, you know, I'm actually like enjoying where I'm at, but then you're around negative people. So then that's like playing a part in what your experience turns out to be. But then on the other side, it's like the people that are actually doing the teaching, like are like, there definitely are moments where we don't feel like we're being prepared to do the thing, you know, like whether it's like, I came here to learn how to do fouette turns and they're not teaching me that. Or it's like, they are teaching me that, but I'm also like, my career is going to be more than me just dancing, you know?
Yeah.
And so I guess relating that back to you, Shelly, like, did you feel like there were moments, or now that you're out of TCU, I'm bringing this up because I know we talked about this on FaceTime the other day, but now that you're out of TCU and you have this perspective of like, okay, this is what it really looks like for me as an artist, like, what do you wish you could have learned while you were there? Or is there something that you would teach artists, and besides teaching artists, if you would become a professor later?
Yeah, I mean, let's just call it how it is. Every program has its faults, you know? So, of course, I highlighted the pros because it really was what I shared. But also, you know, you're still going to find those things where, they taught me these things, but then there were these things that I also needed that I was not taught, or it wasn't heavily stressed enough. And so for me, it was like the preparation classes for the real world. We did do like a city assignment where you know, reenacted what would it be like if you lived in New York or if you lived in Las Vegas, like financially, what is your setup? What is your life? I didn't I know they talked about survival jobs, but I wish we focused more on how to make it not be called a survival job. Like, yes, we did theatrical resumes, we did headshots, we created our own website, which is fantastic. But like, I didn't know what a CV was. You know, I'm still navigating that aspect. You know, I went there for film and television, but that particular area in my department was still being developed. So we were kind of like guinea pigs. So like, you know, that one thing I was going to school for wasn't fully developed, and I'm leaving feeling like, dang, I don't really have experience there. Or voice acting, loved the voice acting class, but it was only one semester. And for me, I was like, I feel like I need 2 semesters of this. We crammed so much knowledge to where it feels like, oh, okay, that didn't really stick. So what I wish I paid more attention to were the hard level jobs that I would have leaving TCU. Like the dancing side, I did dance every semester in the theatrical department because it was more of therapy for me rather than a growth period. And so I wish I looked at taking dance as really trying to better myself, like taking a dance class in the dance school, but that streamline from the theater major to the dance major wasn't really clear. And so it was kind of hard to get into a class, or you didn't really know everything in that regard. But yeah, right now I'm like, I wish I was getting certifications while I was in school, like project management or Microsoft Office, like just having certain things where if I'm in the in-between times, which technically I am now, I would have a certification to, hire my work resume, and that it would be easier to get a job in the corporate world if I were actually preparing certain things outside of theater, or even in theater. There are still jobs like administration wise that you can still get, but they didn't really stress that enough in the program, I would say.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like those things, we're about to jump to our next topic, but I definitely feel like those things should be made clear, like freshman year, like it should be an every year thing that you're learning about, the business or entrepreneurial side of being an artist, and then like, different ways you can realize your career once you graduate. Because I always feel like it's kind of put off as like junior year you'll take career readiness, and it's like,
yep.
Even your last semester, your very last semester,
right, very last semester, they're like, oh, like you could do internships, la la la, and I'm like I would have been taking an internship every year starting freshman year had I known this stuff before. But yeah, that's a whole other conversation. We're going to switch topics now. I'm gonna give it to Mara so she can guide this.
For sure.
Yeah.
So pivoting just a little bit, you kind of started talking about like your in between moment, which is where you're at now. But I want to backtrack to like the beginning of that. So post TCU, to talk about like you did 3 international tours: China, Canada, Germany. What was that experience like for you? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So I went to UPTAs, which is Unified Professional Theater Auditions. And that gave me the space to audition for plenty of theatrical companies over the US. I mean, like they all come together to see all of these wonderful artists perform and put their audition on. And so from there, I got a few offers. I also worked at a theme park as well. And but as far as the international tours, I just didn't realize that me praying for a tour would come the same year, let alone international. My dream wasn't big enough. I'm thinking
God'll do that.
God'll do that. He will give you more than you expect. And so China, I mean, for China to be my first one, I was blown away. I didn't really know what to expect. This was the period where I would say after auditioning and graduating and showcase in New York, which I was working my butt off so hard, I said, you know what, China, I'm just going to focus on the job at hand. And that really allowed me to enjoy my craft, get up, do a show, okay, stretch, work out, get up, doing the same things, and not stress so much about what's next, but live in the moment. And that's something one of my professors, Penny, was telling me, like, right now, live in the moment. Don't worry about what's next. And so that really helped me relax and breathe, and I don't regret it one bit. After that was Canada. it's almost like once you get connected to a certain company, that's the gift that keeps on giving. If you keep working hard, you keep reaching out, follow-ups, submitting more work. And so thankfully China led to Canada, then led to Germany. They were a little spaced out, but still the fact that I have a connection like that has been a blessing. Over the course of a year, I went on 3 international tours, and so I can't be grateful enough.
It's giving artistic baddie.
No, really, because 3 in 1 year, one is insane, but
yeah,
like those are such opportunities that I think like they don't necessarily come around too often, especially that early. Like this was within like the year within you graduating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. And how long were you in China?
Yeah.
I was in China for about 4.5 months.
Okay. Well, that's a long time. How about the other 2 locations? Were they about the same or?
No, so China was definitely my longest tour. Canada, I was actually flying in because a few people on tour were flying out, and so they needed me to finish the tour. So I was in Canada for about a week. So which means I pretty much had to learn the show in like 2 to 4 days, watch it live twice, and then the next day I was on stage. You know, like, and then Germany, I was there for about two-ish months. So that's one thing I feel like I've learned on these tours is the fast-paced environment, you know, quickly learning music, blocking, and dance, and puppetry. Like, I was doing Paw Patrol. I was doing the live action, 3 different shows of Paw Patrol, and the puppetry experience that I have now, I was just not expecting. You're putting on 40-ish pounds of weight, and you're still dancing, you're still acting, you're doing the eyes, the ears, and activating your face. I mean, the whole 9. And so it was a full workout, very enjoyable, but also be careful, girl, because that's a lot of weight you have to hold.
No, that's insane. And it makes me think about like Mia's experience on Daniel Tiger, because she did, I want to say like 2 to 3 national tours here in the US. And she was a swing all 3 times. So like it was nothing but constantly learning everybody's parts, their lines, all the choreography for each character.
Yeah.
Including Daniel Tiger and having to wear this big suit. Like I didn't realize how big it was until I compared it to like the rest of the actors. And I was like, oh, that is a huge suit.
Right.
And she talked about like just the difficulty of it, especially with sometimes having to learn like somebody's parts, lines, all of it, maybe the day before, maybe within 24 hours, 48 hours, sometimes max. So it's very interesting to like see similar experiences between that. I mean, what were, I guess, some of like your highlights and challenges of doing those 3 tours?
Yes. Highlights, I would say meeting a diverse cast. I mean, I have friends in Portugal, the UK, Germany, like Switzerland, like Austria. It's just, it's crazy that you're meeting 12 to 15 to 30 people. And one thing I didn't know is those 12 to 30 people are your family in a different country. And like an actual family. If you get lost, if you have no food, like there were certain instances where I was like, oh wow, you have to rely on them. My family is not here. Something else was, I would say, injuries. Injuries is a huge thing, especially with, you know, the way I was already discussing with the puppets. Some days it's like, whose injury matters more? Like, am I going
less
to right? It's like, am I going to sit out for my ankle, or am I going to stay in because someone else is throwing up backstage? Like, the scenarios are limitless, and so it really matters creating this family aspect so that we can help the show and make sure that it can still run properly. And so I would definitely say that was one of the challenges. The support system, your family is gone, celebrating your birthday without anybody that knows you's different. Holidays, like going to a country that doesn't really celebrate Thanksgiving. Okay, so where do I find a turkey stencil? Like,
crazy.
You have to adjust the language barriers.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about China is the Mandarin, the Chinese, but they also are required to learn a little bit of English. So thankfully they knew base English, but Google Translate and like other apps, that was your lifeline to communicate. So that's a little bit about some experiences I've had.
I wanted to ask about being non-union, the non-union experience. Because I think Tamia is non-union too.
Yeah.
And we talk about unions a lot in this degree. Okay.
I love it.
Almost too much, girl. But just the different experiences between being non-union versus being in AEA or AGMA. And so what was that experience like? Or, I mean, do you have a comparison? And yeah, did you ever find yourself in moments where you had to advocate for yourself because you didn't have this larger entity, doing that for you?
110%.
110. Get into it, girl.
One thing about being non-union is you have to fight for yourself. That's something I learned earlier on, actually, before I started touring, when I was in certain shows in the Dallas area, is you have to advocate financially. You have to advocate, hey, this color really doesn't flatter me the best. The color tights that you're giving me, as long as you're approaching the scenarios with respect and honesty, that is what's really going to bring you through. And so going back to tour life, there were some scenarios where, I'm one of the only people without an agent, and my cast members have agents. And so when issues would come up, they would streamline it to their agent to communicate with the company. And I'm like, well, that's me. So
I am the agent.
Right.
I am the agent. And so it almost, I didn't shy away from it. When certain scenarios would pop up, it's like, be respectful, but be truthful of how you're being treated. It's not about, oh, they're never going to hire me, and if I bring this up because it's conflict, oh, there, something bad's going to happen, which is also a cultural difference. Mm-hmm. That's a different conversation. That's a cultural difference. But I had to rely on, you need what's best for you. And if they're not seeing it, you have to show them where you're coming from. At least try. And so it has worked in my favor over time, fighting for myself and really being in the room, being vocal. And I've been complimented by, the higher ups, like, thank you for speaking up for yourself, because there are certain things that have happened that have swept by because it hasn't been handled either properly or just hasn't been brought up at all.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important to hear, because I think it's natural for us to automatically jump to the villainization of, the people that are in charge. But it's also like, what if they genuinely don't know? You know, like, what if they don't know that this experience happened to you because their eyes, they're managing, you know, something else. And so they don't know what's happening once you get on tour, or what the people that are the stage managers, you know, what they're saying or whatever it is. And so, like, I definitely think there needs to be this, like, conversation of how not to villainize, like, your teachers or like, you know, the managers or the people that are in charge, because mind you, there are moments where people be like, you know, flat out against you, like that does happen, but also like there are moments where that's not happening. And so it's like, how can we encourage artists to not jump to, you know, the villainization, or jump to, oh, I'm gonna get fired if I speak up, and just say, hey, like, if you just be respectful and say, hey, like, can I speak to you? I don't know if you're aware of this, but this happened to me, and I don't want it to happen to anybody else. Or you know, I'm on this tour for 4 more months. Like, I want to be able to fix this so we can keep this positive working relationship. Like, people will respect that more.
It's true.
And when you just don't say anything, but just like keep talking mess, like, if anything, it then makes like you're making your own experience bad, because of your refusal to speak up about something.
And I feel like because of the cultural differences, meeting people from Belgium and Portugal, like, there were instances where I would have to say, hey, I understand this is happening to you. I would advise you to say this. But because of their culture, and that is different as far as speaking up does become an issue, some people just don't see it that way. And so it just really comes down to helping people, regardless if you have an agent or not. There were sometimes I got advice from actors that had agents, and also wanted my insight on where I was, and just really creating that community barrier, or not barrier, but that community bridge really helps to advance in certain situations.
I think that's just like the beauty and humanity in general also, you know, like, we can be a whole bunch of people from different backgrounds, different countries, cultures, coming together on tour, or we could all be from Houston or New York going to the same school, but even though we're in the same environment, we are all bringing these different experiences to the table. And maybe you grew up in a household where you were encouraged to be more vocal and I wasn't, and just by us being in the same room and having that exposure to one another, that automatically like ignites something in me and shows me, oh, I can do this, you know. Or the other person, they're like, okay, maybe I can learn to, you know, be quiet sometimes, you know. Like, we're always learning, and in this like cultural exchange of knowledge which I think is really great. And I think we get to experience a lot of that being artists, because we're always working with people, collaborating. For sure. Collaboration agreements. Collaborating. But so we're gonna shift again to what your life looks like right now. I don't know if you're touring, wink, because I do, or not, but let's just pretend like I don't know all her personal business right now. We don't know if you're touring. You know, what does it look like? Are you still in one of those in-between moments? You know, are there any long-term goals that you are reaching towards right now?
So definitely I am in between contracts. One of the survival jobs that were talked about was substitute teaching, and so that's currently something that I'm doing right now, but it can't be full time. You know, that's what I'm finding right now is it, you know, after I pay rent, after I pay bills, I have nothing to myself, you know, like, okay, let's adjust. And so right now I'm really trying to navigate what is going to work best for me. But this is also the period where you pull out every bit of talent that you have. I mean, like, yesterday I did 2 people's hair. Like, so my natural hairstyling gig is flourishing a little bit. Then I'm learning how to do balloon twisting. Like, finding these things that will help financially is what I'm really focusing on. But also, okay, administratively, you went to school for business. So what experiences did you take from college that you can now morph into, a great resume for an internship or different certifications that you can get? So long-term goals, short-term goals right now, I really want to become like a certified Pilates reformer instructor. One, they seem like they get paid well, but two, I love that it's active. I love that it's not specifically teaching dance, because teaching, I've done it for over a decade, like, honestly. And so I don't want to rely on teaching as like my main source of income. I would like to do it as occasional, or I desire to do it, but not as relying in order for me to have food on the table. And so I'm looking at Pilates, I'm looking at administrative internships at theater. So I'm still in the arts, but I also get the opportunity to hone in on my business skills that I already have a lot of experience in. So knowing now from Ray Arts Initiative, knowing now, just saying, like, she's great, and I can go into that, but I won't right now. But knowing now that getting these internships can really help put me in the position best for the corporate world, I am now like super pumped. I'm not stressed about this year. I'm not stressed about the next year. As long as I'm inching towards different certifications, different internships, different jobs, I feel good about where I am right now. So we're still shifting as far as what's going to be my main source of income. We're still auditioning. Look, audition season never stops. The moment it stops is the moment when you start doubting yourself as to whether you can do it or not. And so I'm staying encouraged. I am so proud of myself just from my confidence freshman year at college to now, still growing myself in other areas while I'm navigating the in-betweens.
That's amazing.
And a word.
But you said the perfect thing to, kind of start to wrap this conversation up. This progression that you've had from a freshman in college to now being this international touring artist, but also that's in the in-between and experiencing this very real reality of being an artist, but also finding ways to still stay inspired and not giving up on yourself, making sure you have this ritual of like positive self-talk and positive affirmations, and like, also relying on your faith and understanding that, God wouldn't give me this talent if he didn't mean for me to use it,
Right.
And it's all about waiting on his timing, and staying obedient in the process and letting him truly lead, my life, your life, me as if I was you. But we usually like to close, asking our guest artists just reflective questions. So yours, if there was something you could tell your younger self, what would that be? Or is there one thing that you would do differently now that you have this knowledge of where you are now and what what the grind looks like? What would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self that even when reality meets imagination, you still keep that dream running. You just adjust your mechanics and how you're going to get there. There's no right way, like someone else's right way to where they are now was with their unique situations and boundaries. And every person is their own person. So I would tell my young self, you create your line. just because you're not doing something the way someone else is. Actually, I'm glad that it's not that case. Why? Because you are Tychelle and you are not other. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely just tell myself to keep dreaming and don't settle where you are. Just keep going further up. Something I would have done differently, I've already said it. Like, I would have gotten certifications in project management or different administrative certifications I would try and get while I'm in college, or even before I get to college. Like becoming proficient in Excel. I have good Excel knowledge, but really becoming proficient in it. Things that will help me on the side of wanting to get my dream. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
A gorgeous ending as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've left us with a lot to, one, think about, but two, also to go away with. Like, for especially if whoever our like younger listeners are, there were several words in what you've told us today, and especially with just now, of like blending your creative world, and especially when it's meeting reality, because reality can hit you. Mm-hmm. But using your creative resources can sometimes be the thing that saves you, and that helps you to continue on, especially you know when you are getting a little doubtful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thank you for being here today and all of your experiences and not explaining, but telling them to us. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, seriously. And I just wanted to add, like, on the end of what you said, like, making sure that we're not using reality as an excuse to give up. Because I think it's just like common for everyone to be like, oh, reality hit, and we just understood knowledge, but then it's like, that doesn't have to be an excuse. Like you have power over your career, and you may be in a in-between season, but it's like, maybe we don't even have to classify it as an in-between season, because it's just like the path, like that is the yellow brick road that you're walking down to then, and you meet these people along the way and these new interests, and then you make it to Oz or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Why I started quoting Wicked. But anyway, it's like, yeah, just not using it as an excuse to like give up. Like, I think that's really important, and definitely well said, Tychelle. So thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's time to wrap this up.
Yep. Everybody, thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you. And we will see you guys. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, literally next time.
Yeah, I was thinking, never mind. You guys don't need to know that. But yeah, all right. Bye everybody.